Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series. Joining you today with Dan Potts. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Very good, man. Apologies for making you a couple of minutes late, mate. As is my
Oh,
bad. So don't get the blame. I see in the chat people will start getting on your back, mate. So it's my fault, people.
they're all
Pleasure
right.
to
They're
be here,
used to
man.
me being late.
Oh, that's okay then. I'm not going to apologise then. But no, mate.
All good.
Brilliant to be on back on with you, man. It feels like it's been forever, and I don't know. It's holiday break, so I'm back into it now, man. So how you doing, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, good. You're away in the Maldives, I hear. It's I mean
Mm,
you've luckily managed to avoid a pretty dour period besides the
mate.
last fixture. So
I,
don't go
I
anywhere else, basically.
Bro, I literally the team needed me. It's weird. I come back and things have started to be okay. I was told Arsenal had crumbled, so I was expecting us to be down in fourth or something. But I come back. It's very difficult over there, as you know, because I know you've been to Mauritius, and the Wi-Fi over there is pretty much non-existent. So it was very difficult to actually find out what was going on. But I flew the day that we lost to Everton, so I was like, "What a start to the holiday!" And then we couldn't beat Brentford. We lost to City, and then we actually managed to take 3 points in the most amazing fashion against Aston Villa. Not convincing, but in the most amazing fashion. And we sit top of the table, 2 points clear of a game in hand. And if that's us crumbling, mate, I'll take it, bro. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The way that language is used to frill things up, and it looks completely different when you look at the reality of it. Good evening, everybody joining us in the chat box. Hope you're doing good and well. We'll have an opportunity for some Q&A towards the end of the show. So if you indeed do have questions, we'll be tackling plenty of those in the chat box later on. So yeah, let's talk about. I haven't really caught up with you since the end of the transfer window, which I think is probably the best place to start. We've
Sure.
seen, and we've had some time, of course, to kind of see how well two of the three signings that we made have done. Jorginho, Trossard, and Kivior were brought in. Was that more or less than you were expecting in the window, or about what you expected?
No, it's probably more than what I expected. Funny enough, take away the quality of the players, whether you think they're good or bad side. It's in terms of how many faces come in. I was quite surprised, Tom. I can't lie to you. I expect to see one or two. We ended up getting three. Quite surprised by Kivior, if I'm honest. I didn't see that as a position that was a priority, but it's one that I'm interested in seeing. I hear good things, and of course, you always hear good things, but when I'm hearing that he's breaking records already in training in London Colney, I'm thinking that must be a good thing. Lewandowski's comments landed pretty promising as well. Um, so I think you're right. There's definitely more than I expected. I can understand why people think it's an okay window, but I can also understand from some of the fans that believe it's a little bit underwhelming, so to speak. Because of the names we were linked with, I think when Mudryk and Caicedo, everyone gets very, very hyped up about it. When you end up with Trossard and Jorginho on paper, people will look at that and think, "What? That's completely different to what we thought we were going to be getting." So it depends what ways you look at it. I actually really like Trossard as a signing. I actually think it's a very, very good signing. And I'm sure that we'll talk about what we think of Jorginho on this stream in a bit. But yeah, as far as the window's concerned, mate, we've seen a hell of a lot worse. Trust me. I mean, last January we bought nobody. So at least we've actually learnt from that and we brought some faces in now. And I would say, yeah, more than I expected. I didn't expect to see three players come in, Tom. I really didn't. So I don't know what you thought on that.
Yeah, no, obviously I was, by the end of the window, I think, reflecting on it, happy, especially considering, two of the three players, the players that you expect with their Premier League experience to come in and make an immediate impact in a season, which we need that. We need to have that. We haven't got time for players to ease their way in. And although Kivior certainly is that, we already know that we've got a starter in that position in Gabriel that's not really going to miss out on a place. He's barely ever missed games. So that's not a problem. But I was surprised with obviously what the amount of players we brought in. I agree. I was thinking maybe two max is what we would do. Kind of a wide player and a midfield player, but getting in the third in a centre back competition, I think is really good, and obviously one for the future as well. But I was also surprised with how kind of aggressive we were with the bidding process behind some of the players that we went for. Obviously, we didn't get Mudryk, we didn't get Caicedo, but I couldn't imagine Arsenal putting in record bids during the January transfer window for players. So what did you make of the business we failed to do in the end?
I do see it as frustrating. I understand why people are frustrated.
Mm.
What I will say is that I have no ITKs about how close we were at getting either of them. So I can't sit there and get frustrated about two players that I wasn't told we were getting. So I can't sit there and start saying how frustrated I am when I had no real thought that we'd get either of them until someone said to me on a yellow bar that they're in an Arsenal shirt. So I can't get too frustrated. What I am concerned about, though, is two things really. Is it true that we can't get our Plan A targets? Some people would say that that is true. And if we can't get them, why can't we? Is it an individual or is it a circumstance? Is it an individual, i.e. Edu, or is it the circumstance actually we're never going to get them anyway? Brighton weren't going to sell, Shakhtar weren't going to selling for 70, they wanted 90, and that was the reason? Or is it that actually Edu didn't want to pay that and he just said, no, I'm not really interested, I'm going to go and get someone cheaper? I don't really know that anyone knows, Tom. I think they're all guessing about what it is.
Yeah,
if I
I
had
agree.
my understanding, I think that I would be a little bit disappointed towards further ahead of Arteta and Edu. I'd be looking towards the Kroenkes saying, look, do you think you've backed Mikel Arteta for a title challenge with Jorginho and Trossard? If you think the answer is yes, then fair play to you. But I would say that potentially that's not ambitious enough, and we might have needed a little bit more in the forward lineup to try and sort that out. When we're going for a title without a striker on the bench, it does worry me, Tom. I can't lie to you. It does. So we could look back to the summer and say, did we do enough? We could look at January and say, did we do enough? We've got what we've got now. And I think the positions we needed covered probably did make sense. I say Kivior as a bit of a bonus. I didn't really particularly think we needed a centre back right now, but I do think we need a cover at left centre back for when Gabriel's out. So that's an option now. But Jorginho coming in is definitely a Thomas Partey cover. And Trossard can play across the front three. So, excuse me. So I think that we've definitely got some options there now. Whether those options are going to be enough to win us a title, we're going to have to see, mate. But I can't say it's been an amazing window, but at the same time, I can't give it a 3 or a 4.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just been a solidly decent window from Arsenal. You know, it's not a case where you rewind a year and we didn't do what we needed to do. I think the striker thing is fair to point out, you know, because obviously we are in a position where we've only got the one striker. I mean, that said, if one of Haaland or Julian Alvarez were to get injured, City are in the exact same position. You know,
very fair.
They haven't got a third striker. You can talk about Cole Palmer and others like youngsters that I imagine that we would also jump onto the bench as well. But yeah, the Balogun was obviously a player that people suggested maybe you could recall him in the window. We could look back on that with some regret maybe at the end of the season if goals and the striker situation is something that ends up costing us. But with him doing so well and getting so much experience and developing so really fantastically consistently with Rons in France, there's an argument that maybe breaking up would not have been the best idea. So obviously the January window closes and then we collapse in a way. Like the form in itself collapses. I was up at Goodison Park to watch what I think is quite comfortably the worst performance of the season. It was really, really poor, and it was a case of, you know, Sean Dyche comes in, Everton responds, they play a perfect game to kind of counter what Arsenal are all about. We then have a chance to respond to that. And of course, you'd hope build some momentum into the Man City game with that Brentford fixture. And despite, I don't think we necessarily played awfully in that game, we just didn't take the opportunities when they fell to us. We weren't kind of clinical enough in the final third, and defensively we made mistakes. And then there was the chaos and the controversy of the VAR situation with Ivan Toney, where arguably we should have still won that game, but VAR and Lee Mason stole that away from us. And then lastly, before we get to Villa, which we'll talk about separately, the Man City defeat, biggest game, I put it down, the biggest game of a decade for Arsenal, so important. And we were just so defensively horrific in terms of mistakes. And it was such a horrible nostalgia to mistakes that the likes of Mustafi, etc., have made, you know, in the past. Not to just single out Mustafi, but you think mistakes, you think Mustafi. I'm sorry, mate. It's just the way it goes. But yeah, City was, and obviously we missed some massive opportunities ourselves through Nketiah in that game. Also, Xhaka had a great opportunity in the second half as well to play in one of Nketiah or Martinelli and didn't. So yeah, that kind of 3-game period, both throughout it and when it came to the end, how was kind of I know you were away and obviously watching things from afar, but how were you feeling tracking it?
Difficult to feel the emotion when you're like 12-hour flight away. However, having said that, I did. And I was, before people start slating me when I say this, I actually think he's done an amazing job this season so far, this manager. But I do have concerns about what we do for Plan B. we need to make plan A better or we need a plan B. And I think the like-minded substitutes are just perhaps proving as to why perhaps January wasn't as great as we thought and the summer wasn't as great as we thought, because Trossard's coming on for Martinelli or the other way around. Tierney and Tomiyasu are being used still as subs. Vieira's coming on. I don't know. It's just a bit meh. I'm not ready to do something different, change it up. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing like stuff. I don't think it's making plan A better, and there's certainly not a plan B for me, Tom. So when things aren't quite going right, I don't think at the moment Mikel Arteta even knows what to do or hasn't got the tools to be able to do it or to do what he wants to do. Now, it's not horrendous because we sit top of the table, but the games were pretty poor from what I'd saw. Brentford, Lee Mason gets sacked. We should have won the game, but actually, did we deserve it? Probably not. Ivan Toney missed an absolute sitter, and Mbeumo should have scored. And I don't think we created five or six. Say again.
Henry should have scored as well. Right,
Rico Henry, that was the guy. Yeah, I couldn't think. So I don't think we can walk away from the Emirates thinking, how the hell did we not win that game? Because actually, we didn't deserve to. I think Everton, we got outclassed by a manager who had a new manager bounce, set some tactics and a game plan that just nullified everything we wanted to do. And set pieces were always going to be an issue. And I just was waiting for one to go in. And when it did, I don't think there was anybody that was surprised that it did go in. We didn't deserve to win that one. I looked at the Manchester City performance and felt that we matched them in the first half, if I'm honest with you. That was the one game that I tried to watch the most of. And then the second half, we just got destroyed. And it looked to me, Tom, as if it was, we're the men. We've done this before. Bless you. You'll get there one day, but you ain't done it yet. We'll show you how to win this title. And they went and destroyed us. Now, ironically, they then went and bottled it to Forest and give us a little bit more of a way in. But when you look at the performance, it was chalk and cheese. Now, I totally agree with the mistakes, by the way. I thought they were shocking. I've never seen Tomiyasu make a mistake in an Arsenal shirt, if I'm honest. If I have, it's never led to a goal. That one was just really out of character, really poor. It made Arteta look a bit silly for just randomly dropping Ben White and then putting Tomiyasu in. I mean, maybe you can tell me something. Was he injured? I don't know. But I saw Tomiyasu playing off Ben White for that one. Weird one.
Think that was injury.
Very weird. Not that I don't rate Tomiyasu because I actually really do like him, but it just made it look even more silly, didn't it? And I think that Gabriel is very, very lucky. He has definitely got the Martin Keown Bozo gene, hasn't he? He does like to make those mistakes. Luckily, he was offside and it didn't matter. But then again, he was at fault for the goal anyway, for the Jack Grealish goal, because he was just, I don't know what he was doing there. So sloppy mistakes cost us. And then we go into the Aston Villa game, which I know we'll bring on separately. But I did think to myself, wow. And I'm going to go back to the FA Cup game now, and people will say, get over it, let it go. Yeah, I have. I've let it go. I had to for the last 3 seasons now since we've won it last. But I am going to question momentum in football. I think it's absolutely key that we make ridiculous changes, that we didn't need to play Rob Holding. We didn't need to rest all these players. Manchester City were there for the taking. I didn't think their team that they put out looked absolutely outstanding on the night, and it managed to scrape past 1-0 against a B-side Arsenal. If we would have actually played that game and won it, I question whether we would have looked as poor against Everton. Sometimes momentum is key, Tom. So, listen, hindsight could be that we beat Man City, we go into the Everton game and we're completely done. And it doesn't matter. We were never winning that game. But I do question that. And I did worry about that at the time, that people were just absolutely, oh, it's the FA Cup, doesn't matter. We're not going for that anymore. Let's just get out of all the competitions, go for this title. I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I really don't buy that. I was frustrated to go out the Carabao Cup. I was frustrated to go out the League Cup. And I will be frustrated if we go out the Europa League, because they're trophies, mate, that I think that are part of history and we should be going for. So I think momentum's key. And those 3 games, personally, were very disappointing. But luckily, it doesn't seem to have massively killed us too much. So let's see, man.
Well, we'll hope. Well, Leicester will give us a lot of answers. We'll talk about that as well. Yeah, just to pick up on a couple of things and give you a chance to respond to some of the points in the chat box as well. I do tend to kind of err on the side of some of the comments. Let me just read some of the responses out. Bradley says we made just some sloppy mistakes against City. Matt says, I disagree. I don't think City destroyed us. We just made 3 mistakes and they punished us. Main says, I don't get the criticism that we get considering we had been overall the best team of City with their depth squads dropped points. Then we should lower our expectation from the boys. Let's talk about the league game against City first. Like, from my perspective, I disagreed with our mutual friend Harry Simu when he tweeted out saying we were outclassed by City. I didn't feel as though we were outclassed. I felt as though actually if you look at the chances that City created, their goals come from 3 mistakes from us. And if you look at the big chances we created, they come from genuine good pieces of play and build up and chance creation. And on a different day, you don't make those mistakes. You take those chances. It goes in a completely different direction. And so it was kind of a game that I think as I said there, on a different day, I think comes out very differently. Yes, in the second half, we were very poor. And in the first half, we were much better. But I just got the sense that maybe that City defeat got latched upon because of what it was and because of the two teams that played and the outcome that led to City going above us in the table. Do you see what I'm saying in that respect?
Listen, if we don't make individual errors, then it's a completely different result, isn't it? And there's the results business. Having said that, if I was to look at how we played and how Manchester City played just in that second half, because as I said earlier, I think the first half we pretty much matched them, if I'm honest. I looked at what Grealish and De Bruyne were doing, and I thought, wow, yeah, this is looking a little bit too hard to keep up with the way they were playing. Bernardo Silva, by the way, is a disgrace. I mean, how he does this all the time. Bernardo Silva, he's kicking the shite out of Saka the whole game, right? And I'm not one of these. Oh, we must protect Saka. I'm not one of them. I think we should protect players that that in a way. It's not always about Saka. There's other players in the Premier League that get it as well. But it was a disgrace, wasn't it? He was absolutely just kicking the hell out of the lad, and the referee's doing nothing about it. So that's another thing. But I do think that the second half, Manchester City were the better side. I really do. I don't think that it was we threw the game away because we basically gave them the ball. I think they were the better side, mate. And sometimes you have to just hold your hands up. And I think, the media were fair to say that. I don't think they were criticising Arsenal. I think they were really quite impressed by what we've seen this season. I think we've got some criticism from the media that just don't want Arsenal to win games, and that's fair. That's always going to happen. We just seem to be hated by some individuals.
It's bollocks.
Well, listen, I'd be the same if it was Spurs at the top. I wouldn't exactly want them to win it. So I suppose some players are like that, aren't they? And they've got that beloved club sort of dedication. But I honestly don't think that we can walk away from the Emirates going, how the hell did we drop points to them? Like, really? Oh my God. I think they were good, man. I think they were. And they were a good side, Tom. Jack Grealish, I thought was really good. Kevin De Bruyne, really good. Haaland done what Haaland does. Not much for the game. What happened? Did he score? Yeah, he scored. So that's what happens, man. They're a quality side. And sometimes you have to walk away from the fixtures and think, right, they've showed us what's what. Let's respond. And the best way to respond is to win your next game. So that's the way we got to look at it, man.
Yeah, and we managed to do that, of course, because Aston Villa came next. That said, for much of that game, I didn't think we were going to because it was, it was a really, I think if we'd have drawn that fixture, the backlash, the meltdown obviously would have been excessive and massive. And obviously the relief after that was that we won. However, that said, I think that we won that game deservedly. Like, if you look at the game in the context, the whole fixture, the number of chances that we created and the amount of chances we limited them to, I know that they scored, their second goal in particular is very good. Their first goal obviously comes from a Zinchenko turnover of possession, and we could defend the second goal better, in fairness. And then the other chances that they create, which if there are 2 or 3, mainly come from us really overcommitting players to try and get that goal. And in the end, Ramsdale is a big hero in saving Leon Bailey's strike that obviously hits the bar. There was the defence for Duran that run down the right-hand side as well that we dealt with, and Ramsdale eventually saved that as well. So when you actually look at the context of how we played, the chances we created, like Ødegaard should have had a goal, and Nketiah should have had a goal. We've already scored 2 through Zinchenko, and why is the name forgetting me? Saka in the first half as well. And then, of course, the chaos at the end with Jorginho and Emi Martinez, and then Martinelli and Fabio Vieira breaking away from that corner. And then a whole meltdown in the press box, of which happened literally seats behind me, which is kind of funny, which everyone has now seen the video of. The amount of people that text me or tweeted and tagged me saying, I can see you're getting involved. I'm like, I won't get involved. I was minding my business, mate. You can see me minding my business in the bottom corner. But it was a crazy game. And ultimately, I think if we'd have won that, say, 2-0 and just kind of come away comfortably and responded, if anything, the way in which we've won that is going to be an even greater boost to us.
I agree. I agree with everything you've said. And as a neutral, what a game of football, by the way. Absolutely superb game of football.
I sat there at 2-2 saying, at least we've watched a really good game.
Isn't it? Like, unbelievable. Like, I spoke to the guys on my channel, of course, like they're all, there's only myself who's an Arsenal fan on my channel. And all the neutrals, they were like, what a game. Like, what a game of football. Absolute madness ending and superb. Had everything in it. What it did have was some really poor play from Arsenal in the first half, Tom. I have to say it. Zinchenko losing the ball, Jorginho not doing enough, and then Saliba, who I absolutely love, nowhere near good enough against Ollie Watkins, in my opinion, for their first goal. And we equalised with a great Bukayo Saka goal, which everyone's giving Tyrone Mings a bit of a hard time for. To be fair, I'm not a huge fan of Tyrone Mings, but he's just tried to get anything on it to get it away from the goal. And it's fell to a top quality player, and he's absolutely smashed it in the net. And I've been so impressed with him, by the way, Saka. So impressed of late. I think he's been superb, mate. He really has.
Speaking of which, just quickly, breaking news.
Go on.
According to Sammy Mockbell of the Mail, Arsenal are indeed closing in on a £200,000 per week contract for Bukayo Saka. That's come
Brilliant
through
news.
just in the last 20 minutes. So there you go.
Brilliant news, mate. Brilliant news. I didn't doubt it, Tom. I didn't doubt this one would come through. I'm the only one I had doubts were out of the three, being Martinelli, Saliba, and Saka. Was Saliba, just because I don't know where his head's actually at. I think Saka and Martinelli have proved over the last few seasons that their heads are with Arsenal. And from what I can see this season, Saliba certainly looks happy. But Saka, we needed it, mate. And if they're all on 200k a week, let's just do it. Let's just get it. I don't care if it breaks the bank. Oh my God, £200,000. Just get it done. Yeah, this guy needs to stay. He's been so good, man. He really has. And I love the kid. Absolutely love him. So the first half was frustrating. I think the second goal, yeah, it was poor, but it's actually quite a nice work goal from Villa, if I'm honest with you. It didn't do us any favours. I don't think we particularly played well to defend it, but Coutinho puts it in and we go into that and it's shaky again. It is shaky. And I think the second half, I'm going to give credit to the manager and the team because the team talk must have been amazing. And the mentality shows we ain't losing this game. We've just lost to City. We just lost to Everton. We ain't bloody beaten Brentford even. We cannot lose this one as well because that really will be an apple crumble coming out with, Arsenal's badge on it like everyone will love to see. So the mentality that we showed to get back into that game, mate, was outstanding. I mean, like absolutely outstanding. I thought in the second half, we just absolutely blitzed them. We just destroyed them, in my opinion. And I looked at the performance of Jorginho, and I honestly believe, Tom, that although he come on against Everton and didn't look great, I think he's been one of our better players in the last two games. Only from what I've seen. I haven't seen it 90 minutes, minute 0 to 90. He looks really good, man. He looks really good. Like off the ball, yeah, question marks. On the ball, really good. Passing ability, definitely has fitted in. He's got that experience and that leadership that we've seen. And I thought he was superb. He was so good, particularly in that second half. So we see the last minute goal go in. We see Zinchenko picked up his form and I thought was really good. He gets that goal. The last minute, Emi Martinez does his best impression to try and keep as much time on the clock as possible for us to rake it up and get the winner. Yeah. Bless him. I actually like Martinez. I know a lot of Arsenal fans hate him still. I always remember him for some good moments towards the end of his Arsenal career. But he is a crazy madman. He's an absolute madman. And he's proven that, to go against what Emery wants. Emery's not happy with him. Is it the right thing to do? Go up to try and get an equaliser? Is it the wrong thing to do? It's turned out looks like to be the wrong thing to do. But do you go against your manager? It shouldn't really. So I do think that is a massive win. And what I will say, Tom, I wasn't there, but the people that were there that I know said it was just absolutely rocking and like unbelievable the way it ends in a game anyway. Wherever you are, you're going to be enjoying that sort of win. But actually to know how much that meant, I saw hunger in the players' eyes for a title, not hunger to get 3 points, hunger to hunt City down for a title. And I do believe personally that will come back in May if things go our way and be one of the most important wins of the season if things are to carry on going the way that we hope they go, because that is such a massive win, particularly helped by the Forest City result. But either way, even if City would have won, we needed to win that game, and we did. And, I can see the pros and cons about Jorginho, which I'm sure we'll come into, but I really felt like he deserved a mention, mate. I think the last couple of games, he's looked one of our better players. Even against City, I thought he was one of the ones that stood out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in the last two games against Villa and City, Jorginho has been the player that stood out for me the most in terms of the control, in terms of how surprising he is, in terms of how much we still progress the ball with him in the team. Because that was always kind of thing with Lokonga and with and El Neni, was that El Neni's obviously very safe. I like El Neni. I think when he's come in to provide cover for Partey in previous seasons, I can't really ever start pointing the finger at him as the reason why we weren't doing it. It was more the absence of Partey than the presence of El Neni as to why I felt we were kind of not as good as we were, because he's always been decent. But when Lokonga's come in, there's been question marks because it's not his best position, in fairness to the kid. He's a number 8, he's not a number 6. But Jorginho coming in as we asked for in January has given us immediate impact. And I think that's the crucial thing with this, is that we're seeing a situation whereby the club have made a decision to go, it is absolutely paramount that we bring somebody in to the team in this window, in midfield, no matter who that it is, we need to make sure they can give us an immediate impact, be it a Premier League ready Caicedo, if we can get him in as a number 1 target. If not, go and get someone on a sensible length of contract, which we have in Jorginho, get him into the club and see what he can do. And what we've seen in the last 2 and a bit games, is that he can certainly come in and do that. But yeah, I was really impressed by his
I think as well, real talk, he's had 2 games. I'm not going to sit there and start saying that he's Andrea Pirlo, right? But I will judge him over the period of the season. I think that's fair, like I have done every other player. But so far, he is an upgrade on Lokonga and Elneny. He is. Lokonga, I don't really think that's going to work out. I could be proven wrong. He could come back after Palace and look a different player. I just can't see it. Elneny's a very honest player, Tom. He signed an extension, and it's a player that I look at as being part of the squad. And I don't really say that it excites me, but what it doesn't do is piss me off, because there's 2 ways of looking at it. If we've signed Elneny because we're not getting anybody else in midfield, then I would worry. But I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think Elneny is a very honest player. He's never said that he's going to be a Vieira or a Fabregas. He's always said that he's going to be a £7 million player, which is what he was. And I think he's given us more than £7 million worth over the last few years that he signed for us. When I look at Jorginho, there's positives and there's negatives in his play. And I'm kind of not surprised by it. And I think that's why I'm okay with it at the moment. Some people I see are losing theirs. We got Jorginho, what the hell are we doing? I didn't expect him to come in and be a Patrick Vieira, by the way. I've seen what he is at Chelsea, Off the ball, yeah, I don't think he's as great as Thomas Partey. I don't think he gets about the pitch as much as Thomas Partey. But the positives are all the things we bought him for, which are his passing ability, the fact that he's bringing some leadership and experience, the fact that he's 100% an upgrade on the others. And actually, it looks like it could work out all right for us. The other negative I would say, and I don't know if you agree on this, mate, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. One player, and correct me if I'm wrong, one player that I haven't been too impressed with over the last few games is Granit Xhaka. I'm not getting on his back because I have given him a lot of credit, and I think he's deserved a lot of credit. He, in the last few games, has been affected, I think, by Thomas Partey being out. And I think what Jorginho lacks is affecting Granit Xhaka and potentially Ødegaard. I mean, he's missed a sitter, by the way. Can we just say that was an absolute sitter? I know Eddie was getting the blame, but Ødegaard's one was even worse than Eddie's.
And Eddie sets up that chance. Like, if Ødegaard scores that and we win, the way in which Eddie's performance would be perceived for winning the ball in that situation and then playing it through to Ødegaard, it would have been completely different. So, yeah, that's a gutting.
Yeah. So I think, Thomas Partey being out of that midfield actually does affect us big time, like we knew it would. But Jorginho's come in, and to be fair to him, in the last couple of games, it's worked well. Granit Xhaka's performances of late haven't been shocking, but they have not really been to the level. And I'd only put that down to the fact that Partey's out and he just doesn't seem to be able to be as progressive as he'd like to be, or that he has been consistently when Partey's been available. So that's the only one for me, really. Everything else, I mean, listen, we've taken 3 points at Villa Park when I really didn't see it coming in, mate. So we've got to be happy with that, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a place that we've had a good, record of winning at. So in the context of Arsenal going to Villa Park, it's not like a surprising result by any means. I think it's actually our most enjoyed away game in the Premier League, mainly because they've always been bar one relegation in the Premier League, to be fair, and our record at Everton is pretty dire. But Man City have dropped points against Villa there this season, and so you've already got, that's a double over Aston Villa where you've gained 2 points on City in those 2 fixtures. So that's really important to make sure that you're doing that. And then, as you said, on the train home, the atmosphere in the carriage when Man City drew was unbelievable. Like, just the hope had really been restored. Like, and we can obviously, if both us and City win this weekend, which is an if, and we'll talk about that in a sec, we've got a game that we can go 5 points clear and get revenge against Everton. I mean, we've got great motivation, not only for the title, but to get revenge on Everton, for that game where the players were absolutely gutted. just seeing them after the game in the mix zone, which they weren't doing any talking because they don't whenever we don't win. They were gutted, and they'll want to respond. And fingers crossed, we see them respond as well. And before we go to questions, so do start chat box getting your questions into the chat box. And in the last 20 minutes of the show, we will tackle them. What do you make of this Leicester game then at the weekend? They're a really interesting team. I know that obviously on the 12th Man podcast that you talk to plenty of supporters from around the clubs, so you have a really good insight into what is going on across the Premier League, whereas I'm very much blinkered for Arsenal. But what do you make of them as a team? What type of challenge do you think they're going to present to us?
Well, it's a shame, isn't it? Because actually they've got quite a few of their players back now, Tom, because they were absolutely depleted. A lot of people think that Leicester were struggling at the start of the season because they've got Brendan Rodgers in charge. That's just not the case. They had some of it could be put towards the manager, of course. But when you look at it, they had a lot of players out. A majority of them have come back now. One of them being one player that I absolutely love, James Maddison. I think James Maddison is unbelievable, mate. I honestly do. I think he's an incredible footballer. They've got Tete now on the wing. He looks really good. And they've got some really good players, Leicester, I think. I think Dewsbury Hall is a player that goes under the radar. He's been fantastic. Harvey Barnes is one on the day. It can be very, very dangerous. They've got a new centre-back pairing now at Leicester of Suter and Faze, who are two players that have replaced defenders such as Fofana and Soyuncu. So I look at it and think, they are a team that can get got at. I don't rate their goalkeeper at all. I think Danny Ward can be got at 100%. But I do believe that they had a chance to go to a 3-0 up against Manchester United at the weekend in the first half, and they didn't manage to put their chances away. It could have been a very, very different game. So this isn't going to be an easy fixture, but Leicester do concede goals, so let's hope that we can get at them. I think we can. I do believe that as much as Jamie Vardy in the last few seasons has haunted Arsenal and other teams, it's not the same Jamie Vardy. I think Iniacho needs 2 or 3 chances before he puts one in the net. So they may have some, to look at themselves there in that position, because I think that they have wasted some chances of late. But they've got a midfield that I really rate. I've already mentioned Tete and Barnes. I think if Tielemans is fit, which I'm not sure that he is, James Maddison and Dewsbury Hall and Wilfred Ndidi, Leicester are going nowhere near the relegation zone with that midfield, mate. So I think they can cause us problems, Tom. I really do. I fancy the win. But the way Arsenal have been lifted, and with the Saka news that we're hearing today, I think that all those little things, they come into play, and it lifts the fan base, it lifts the players, and I think we'll be okay for 3 points, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I've been to the King Power before, not to watch Arsenal, but I got dragged there with the missus to watch Charlton get better during the season that they got promoted to the Premier League, which was enjoyable. They're an interesting side, and I think that obviously we saw them completely destroy Spurs. Could have won that game by more, and it was a game obviously that was very costly for Spurs, not just because of the result, but losing Bentancur as well for the rest of the season is massive for them. But then when you look at the last record, they've won 2 of their last 8 games, including a 4-game losing streak against Newcastle, Liverpool, Fulham, and Forest. Drawing with Brighton's not a bad result, and beating Villa the same scoreline that we did at Villa Park as well, and then beating Spurs. But the Man United game, a tricky one. They are still very much down and within that kind of relegation scrap. Yeah, it's a real tussle down there this season. Like, there's so many teams involved, far more than there is, I think, in terms of, I'd say far more than the top 4. I've kind of forgotten about top 4 because we're just not in it, because we're focused on higher things. But you got Spurs, Newcastle, Fulham are only 3 points behind 5th place Newcastle, and obviously 4 points behind Spurs. It's an amazing achievement of where they are this season.
They deserve unbelievable amount of credit, Fulham. Like, they've been the surprise package for me massively this season.
Yeah, hugely so. But yeah, Leicester are 4 points off of 18th place West Ham, but they've got Wolves, Everton, Bournemouth between them and West Ham, and then you've got Leeds and Southampton. Southampton obviously will be having a new manager, you'd think, soon. Leeds United. Have Leeds appointed anyone yet?
Javi Gracia, the old Watford boss.
That's an interesting appointment.
I don't know that's enough. I don't know if that's enough, mate. I fancy Leeds to go down after that appointment. I might be proven wrong. He did okay at Watford. I think Southampton and Bournemouth are looking pretty bleak, if I'm honest, and I fancy Leeds to join them. I think West Ham will just about have enough this season. They look absolutely awful, but I can't see them going down. And I think Wolves under Lopetegui have probably got enough. Everton, I think, as Sean Dyche has basically saved Everton, in my opinion, from going down. They definitely would have gone down with Lampard in charge, like 100%.
100%.
That was a given for me. So yeah, man,
it's a travesty that we never got to play at Goodison Park against Frank Lampard's Everton.
I know.
That's a travesty.
It really is. It really is. But
Same
I'll be
as-
there at the weekend, mate. For Leicester. Big up Mike in the chat as well. I've seen Mike Feinberg in the chat, and he was at the last Leicester.
He's not
Is he
really
gone
there.
now? Yeah. He was at the last he was at Leicester away last year. It was actually my favourite away day. We had a great laugh, and we got very, very drunk and started singing stupid songs. But it was a great time, and I hope that we have another one like that, because it was a great away day. And I like Leicester away. It's a nice away day, and I hope it is I can say the same when I leave there at the weekend.
Both, mate. You and me both, and everyone else that's going up there on Saturday as well. It's a nice place. My missus was there for 3 years at uni, so I know it pretty well, and it's good for a curry. I can tell you that. There's amazing curry houses in Leicester. There's some really, really good one. A place called Kayao in the High Street is a particular favourite. Very, very good.
By the way, what's all this about you and Judges and Mike and everyone going for a breakfast at a Canton Chinese? What's all that about? Who has Chinese for breakfast?
I'll see if I can find the Mike. Will send me the picture. I'm sure I have it somewhere. Let me see if I can.
I couldn't get out of my work commitment, otherwise I would have joined you. But I was like, they went to a Chinese for breakfast. Wow.
Yes, we did. We went to. Well, it wasn't for breakfast; it was for lunch. But
brunch. Okay.
Brunch, if you like, yeah. But it was very good. All I'm trying to type in myself and Judges into Twitter, but all I'm getting is him holding up bread rolls at the FCA Awards. So I can't.
Oh, excellent!
I'm sure Mike will send it to me if I'll find it, but I'll get a picture up of it shortly. But yeah, it was Mike's idea to go and visit a place called Canton, because he's gone there, and I think he's been there before in London. But as soon as he found that place in Leicester Square, he was like, yeah, he's going to drag all of the Arsenal content creators he can find to that place for food.
Fair play,
there you go.
Fair play. Judges told me it was breakfast, man. Judges needs to sort his time.
2 o'clock. I don't know what Judges was on about. It was 2 o'clock. It was good. To be fair, a Chinese for lunch is not a common thing. Like, if you think of having a Chinese,
it's not an unusual thing. It's like more unusual if you have it for breakfast. So you know.
Yeah. There's no McMuffins at a Chinese. That's for sure. There's no 10:30 cut off for a breakfast menu. Anyway, let's jump into the chat and tackle some of these questions. We've got one from Peter, who says, do you guys think it was funny how Edison was constantly wasting time and again, and got booked once in the first half? We did it once through Tomiyasu taking a throw and got booked straight away. Martinez got booked as well, obviously, for time wasting. I've never in the history of football known a goalkeeper to be sent off for 2 yellow cards, both of which were time wasting. It's kind of just a token gesture from referees. Do you think more needs to be done cracking down on this type of time wasting?
I just want to see a little bit of consistency, Tom, because I think that answers the question from Peter. But I think we should just do what it was at the World Cup, Tom. Now, just do what it was at the World Cup next season. I know people will go, oh, it's like 12 minutes added on. Yeah, there won't be if people don't time waste. So I think that definitely needs to happen. The other thing you can do, which I was speaking to Robbie a while ago on AFTV about this, and he come up with the idea about it being like a basketball thing where the buzzer just goes when it's 90 minutes, it stops when the ball's out of play and it continues. The problem, of course, with that is you're still in the ground 3 hours later at a football game sometimes. So, you know, for example, Newcastle at the Emirates, the ball was in play for 43 minutes. So it's absolutely crazy when you go there with tactics like that. So it would stop that, of course. But at the same time, I just think do what it was at the World Cup. Add all the subs on, add all the yellow cards, add all the time wasting, add all the throw-ins and the corners, just add it all up. Stops the goalkeeper time wasting, stop the players walking sillily, stops the players from doing dirty tactics. And we see 90 minutes of football that we all want to see. So I think that's the way forward, man, next season is do what they did in the World Cup. Because I thought it worked.
Yeah, no, I think it did work. I think that is how you prevent it from happening, because like Arteta has got a number of times kind of talked to by the fourth official for like how mad he goes when the ball goes up the amount of time, because it is ridiculous. Like, it's not representative of what we've come to expect at all from. I mean, not what we've come to expect, but certainly it's not what we should expect when we see how little football's actually played. So that's a frustration. Mike said he's WhatsApped me the picture, so I'll get that while I ask the next question. Let's go to Rancid Pumpkin, who says, would you play Vieira and Jorginho as our midfield pairing against Leicester? And Haroon says, would you consider playing Smith Rowe instead of Xhaka if Xhaka's form doesn't improve? So 2 questions in the same area there.
Yeah, I am concerned by Granit Xhaka's form, but I don't think it's got to the stage where we need Smith Rowe or Vieira in there. I don't know about you, Tom. I just don't see them as number 8s, I'm afraid. I see them as a lot more further forward players. I think they could play in the 10. I think they could play in the wide areas, right or left, but I just don't really know that I see them playing as a number 8. I could be wrong. It would certainly answer the question to can we get more of a progressive player in there, because they're certainly more progressive naturally than Granit Xhaka, although he has been very good in that role. But I'm more thinking it might be down to Jorginho playing in there. And it sounds strange because I've just been bigging him up, but it doesn't mean that he's been playing badly. It kind of means that Xhaka's role has been a little bit affected by that. He just hasn't got the Thomas Partey factor. That's all it is. It's not that he's a bad footballer. It's just that it's allowing Granit Xhaka to be a little bit more affected. Only my opinion. I might be completely wrong. So it might be that is an option, but I can't see Mikel Arteta dropping Granit Xhaka. He just loves him, and rightly so this season. He's been fantastic. I don't know if I see the Vieira. I think, listen, he's had some really nice touches. He's had some really nice assists. And I think when he come on against Wolves, he was brilliant. He actually put in a really good pass to Martinelli for the goal, by the way, the weekend, which people don't actually give much credit for. But if he was to go back in hindsight and say to me, I've got 40 million here for a player. We got Ivan Toney or Fabio Vieira. Who'd you fancy? I'd go and get Toney. Don't worry about Vieira yet. Like, he don't look quite ready. Ivan Toney's a position that we need. So, yeah, that's the way I'd see it. In that position, I think it will be Xhaka and Smith Rowe. I honestly believe left midfield, bit of a Jack Grealish type player in my opinion. So I don't really see him as a number 8. But yeah, could be wrong, man. Could be wrong.
Potentially. Smith Rowe is a really interesting one. I remember doing a kind of look into the positions that he took up when he played on the left wing for us last season and the season before when he burst on. And the spaces that he takes up are very similar to the spaces that Xhaka has been playing in this season.
Okay.
So actually there is, I think, potential to maybe see that happen. It might be something we have to ease in and use in the second half when we make a change, if we're winning or if we need a goal. To kind of ease it in. But I think there is potential to see it. Vieira is the interesting one, because I think Vieira was brought in as a competition to Ødegaard mainly. And I think that is what he will be. He will be kind of that player that plays instead of Ødegaard or comes on to support Ødegaard, but never
I like
really...
parts of his game. I do like parts of his game.
Do I. Yeah, I just think that he's like similar to Kivior, that I worry for them a bit because they're at such an important age in their career that I wonder whether or not they're going to get the minutes to develop in the necessary way to get to that position. We had a question come in from Delisa, who says, when are we having a panel of Canton, Simiu, Potts and Judges on the same show? We got to get that together on Judges channel, surely. That's the only way we're going to get it done.
100%, man. Listen, we can get that done. Me and Judges will sort that out. Don't you worry. Head over to Lee Judges TV and we'll make it happen. But do you know what? We used to do a regular Sunday show between us, didn't we? Like, so me, you, Sophie, Harry, well, and Judges. And I think since the World Cup kind of got in the way of the season, it put a bit of a stop to that. So we need to get that back up and running, man. 100%. But look at that photo. What a bunch of stars there are there. Look. Is that Harry Simiu in the background trying to peer?
He's poking his head in. Yeah, he really should have gone at the front, shouldn't he? He's definitely one for a front of a photo.
100%, man. 100%. Big up Mike as well. I mean, Judges is the only one dressed for winter there, I must say. Everyone else is...
Yeah, no, he's got to protect his head, didn't he? So got the woolly hat on for himself. Let's take a few more. James says, what do Arsenal need to change to stop the number of goals that we're conceding? Is it an individual error issue or a tactical problem?
Thomas Partey problem, mate. I honestly believe that. I think when you take that piece of the puzzle out, it kind of affects everything around him, diagonally, in front and at the back. It's strange, isn't it? Because I never thought Thomas Partey would be integral. I thought he'd be very important, but I never thought he'd be like, wow, when he's out, I worry. A little bit similarly to, I suppose, Manchester United with Casemiro. I think he's that important. I really do. You look at 23% win rate without Casemiro. Thomas Partey, I think the games he's missed, we've not been able to win. We've either lost them or drew them. And that was key as well. When Thomas Partey was out, And off the field at Everton, we conceded. We couldn't beat him without him. Couldn't beat Brentford without him. Couldn't beat City without him. And we managed to get the 3 points against Villa. But again, Brighton and PSV we lost to, and Manchester United this season, all without Thomas Partey. It's crazy, isn't it? But I really do think that's the key, Tom. I really do. And I think when Thomas Partey and Jesus are back, two players we desperately need back, in my opinion, by the way, because Eddie, I think it's time for Jesus to come back now. I think it's those two players are going to be massively important for us. I really do.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be huge. They're going to be really, really big. Speaking of players that we could use to help us, Dan and Dylan says, who would you rather sign, Bellingham and Maddison, or Ousmane Dembele and Declan Rice? Not Ousmane Dembele, that's Osimhen, I think he means.
Osimhen and Rice, yeah. Listen, Osimhen and Rice are probably the two that we need more, but Bellingham and Maddison, can you imagine that midfield? Wow. I'd have to go with that.
Arguably, those two would play the same role, though, because I see both Bellingham and Maddison being that left eight.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm kind of with you there, yeah. But, what players they are. That's a bloody good question, that is, isn't it? Because I really like Osimhen. I think Osimhen's going to be a really good player. I think he's an absolutely beast of a player, Osimhen. And I like Declan Rice, and I think we will get Declan Rice. So I think I'll tell you what, I'll answer it this way. I think Osimhen and Rice are more realistic in the summer, but I think I would prefer Bellingham and Maddison, because they're just, wow. A Bellingham, Maddison, Partey, and Ødegaard to choose from in midfield. Wow. That would be unreal, wouldn't it?
Terence Tibbs is asking what our favourite curry is. What do you tend to go for? What's your order?
I like a dansak, mate. I do like a dansak. And I do like a tikka masala, man. I can't lie. But yeah, I do like a dansak.
Everyone loves a tikka masala. It's just like when you're just not fancying your mouth being on fire, just a tikka masala do it. I'm a jalfrezi person myself.
I like jalfrezi. That's a good shout. I do like jalfrezi.
Very good.
It was funny, actually, because there was somebody complaining on holiday that one of the curries was hot and it was a korma.
I thought,
wow,
that classic story, isn't it? Yeah, that is a worry. I don't think I've ever had a chicken korma. I don't think I've ever had one.
They're actually quite tasty, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Yeah, and I'm not really like a big spice person, to be honest. Like I'll struggle with some. But like,
me neither.
Yeah. No, I do enjoy jalfrezi. Benji says, how far do you think we'll go in the Europa League, and at what stage would you start taking it seriously?
Well, I take it seriously now because I think it's an absolutely superb competition for us to try and win. And I said that we'd win it, and I stand by it. I think we're the best team in that competition. Manchester United and Barcelona, one of them is going out tonight. So when you look at that, I would say they were the other two teams I would look at seriously in that competition. I know Roma are going to be interesting. Are Roma in it? Am I making that up, or have Roma got into? Roma are in the Europa League, right? With Mourinho, I'm sure they are. Yeah, so that's another team that will do well because it's a cup competition. But I really fancy us to do it, mate. I really do. I've said it from day one. I definitely thought we would win the Europa League over the Premier League. Now that we've got the Premier League opportunity, I don't see that yet. Anyway, we need to worry too much. The Europa League games are not going to be for a couple of weeks yet, and I really don't think we have to start panicking and prioritising yet. The only two competitions that we're in. So for me, if I had to win one, I'd go for the Premier League. But why can't we win both, man? The way we're playing, we should have the confidence to go and say, look, playing the best in the league at the moment. In my opinion, best in the team in the Europa League. Go and win both, man.
I think that it's a competition that we should be taking seriously, without a shadow of a doubt. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to use some of the players, though, that we haven't necessarily seen, because it's not about not taking it seriously by using Vieira, using Kivior, using Trossard, because we're getting to a stage where our second team is looking good and we can replace players and not have to see it's not like we're throwing the kids in. So I think you can take it seriously and still make changes to your squad. Turner, I rate Turner. I like him. I think that I know that you have your doubts about it, which is fine.
No, I did. I did early on. I did have my doubts. I did, but I've not had them since the World Cup, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. A few more. Let's go to Yasin, who says, what do you guys think about the Bellingham story? It seems like Arsenal can't financially be able to join that race. Any comment on the financial status of Arsenal summer transfers? We rarely get asked about finances.
Ask Mike Feinberg, the financial status.
But what do you make of the idea that we're being priced out of Bellingham? Like, if we win the league this season, do you think that we should be going for 150 million and £300,000 per week to get Rice?
Yeah, I do. I do, mate. If Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, and Osimhen are all available, and Arsenal win the league, Why can't the Cronkies provide us with that 300 million to ensure that we're sustainable next season and go for it again? If we got Bellingham and Rice in that midfield, mate, it would be the two perfect players that we would need to bolster and refresh our midfield. Osimhen is a absolutely talented boy, and he's better than Eddie Nketiah. So if he's going to go and compete with Jesus, that gives us that next level, doesn't it? That's the way I see it. Like if we're getting priced out of Jude Bellingham because he's 150 million, I doubt that he is 150 million. I doubt that he's between 100 and 150 million, and somebody will probably, like Chelsea, go and get him for that. But actually, for me, if you look at the player and you look at Declan Rice, where do you think they'd fancy at the moment? Because I know money talks, right? But actually, a project talks as well, or a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The ambition of the player of where they'd like to go to what club. Manchester City is always going to be an option. Liverpool would have been an option, but they look like they're stalled a little bit. Chelsea look an absolute mess all over the place. So Manchester United and Arsenal might not be that bad an option for Bellingham, Rice and players like that at the moment, because Ten Hag and Arteta look to have got things sorted. They look like they're steering the ship in the right direction. And I think players of that age look at like Saka and Ben White and Smith Rowe and Martinelli and think, yeah, I fancy that project now as well, because there's 5 or 6 individuals that I know well from the England setup in terms of those players I've mentioned that are English. I think both players would fancy Arsenal. It's whether or not the Cronkies would stump up the cash. Now, I know that they have done over the last few, and we've been very spoiled in terms of how much we've spent. Whether they would spend that much on those two players, I don't know, because we've spent 400 million or whatever it's been, but we have got like 19 players with it or whatever it's been. So would we go and get 300 million pounds on Osimhen, Bellingham and Rice? The answer is probably no, because, you know, they've never done it before. But it's on the owners, isn't it? If we want it and we've got the money available, financial fair play says we can do it, then let's go and do it, man. That's the way I see it.
We are going to wrap things up there. Dan, thank you so much for your time, mate. As always, much appreciate it. Tell people they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Thanks, Tom. No, always a pleasure coming on here, mate. Big up the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe to Tom and get him up to what is an absolutely incredible amount of subs, man. So fair play to you. If you do want to come and follow me, mate, it's at DanArsenal87 on Insta and Twitter. If you want to come and follow my podcast, please do. It's at Football's 12th Man podcast, and it covers all football content. So if you can come and get us up to 8K, that would be amazing. And big up Mike as well, because he jumped on for me last week when I was on holiday in place of me and decided to dive into a swimming pool at the last minute of the stream, which was absolutely brilliant. So fair play to you, Mike. Big up yourself, and thank you, Tom.
No problem at all. Do drop a like on the video. As I say, 12th Man podcast. You can find it across YouTube, and Lee Judges TV. You can find Dan appearing plenty there. Now you got back to support Judges. Now he's been struggling with that,
man. Bless him. He's done a good job, man. He always does. But I'm back there. We're back there tomorrow night doing a preview for Leicester. So make sure you come over to Lee Judges TV and support us both, man. That would be amazing. Cheers for that, Cannon.
No problem. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, it's been a great. I'll discuss, obviously, all the latest regarding Bukayo Saka's contract tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Have a good evening. We'll see you later. And as always, keep following us. I was going to say keep following us down the Arsenal way, but that's the wrong channel. As always, up the Arsenal.